All right, hi guys, I'm Lauren with Every Little Thing Events, and today I have Kristen Bowen with Kristen Bowen Photography.
Hey.
And I'm just going to ask her some questions today that I get from brides all the time about photography, and who better to answer these questions than an expert in photography.
Thanks.
So let's just dive right in,
Okay,
shall
let's
we?
do it, yeah.
Okay. So first thing, what questions should couples ask you as a photographer?
Oh yes, so I have had a lot of questions and some good questions to ask when you're just starting the process of like reaching out to photographers other than like packages and price and stuff. You should kind of ask some background information. How long have they been doing it? It's not a terrible thing to ask what equipment they have. You might not know what the equipment means, but something other than just a camera is important.
Sure.
You need to ask like what's their contingency plan. Like if a camera breaks, they should have thought all that through, and then maybe ask for like their favorite venues that they like to shoot at. And last, like their style. Like how would they describe their photo style and like their personality, their style, like
to
that.
Make sure that they match with you and vice versa, right?
Yeah, this is a huge day. You want someone that you like there, because photographers stay with you like all day long. So you want someone that you like.
Yeah.
So there are more questions, but those are kind of like the big ones. You want to make sure that they're a professional and that they're going to gel with you super well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Super important. So on wedding day itself, are most of your photos candid or posed? How do you kind of break that up?
This is such a good question. So I would describe it as 80% candid, 20% posed.
Okay.
So a wedding day is great because like people are in love. So you don't really have to be like, look at each other like you're in love. They generally are in love. So I'll just give some very basic things for you to do, like walk, kiss, stuff like that, and just let it flow. Let the love just flow. But you'll have like the formal family portraits and a few formal portraits that will need to pose. But for the most part, I try to like curate a moment and make sure it looks pretty, but then just let it unfold and capture it as it happens.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to choosing a photographer that you really gel with. And,
that's my style.
Your personality and your style. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so next question. You touched on this a little bit, but what equipment do you use as a photographer? What do you need as a photographer?
Yeah, so the equipment question, here are some things that you should be looking for, because brides don't really know about equipment, but you should be listening for 2 professional camera bodies. So if one goes down, you've got a spare. You should be looking for multiple lenses, because each lens has a wonderful purpose and they serve to get different angles and stuff like that. And then you want to check to make sure that they have lighting equipment. There are different ways to light. But just make sure that they have it, because especially if your ceremony is in like a dark reception, or your reception is in like a hall, you'll want to be able to light it up. So, I personally shoot Nikon, and I have like 3 or 4 lenses that I really, really like.
Okay.
So, those are the basics.
Yeah.
If you guys know specific stuff and you want to know like the exact stuff I shoot with, I'll tell you. So just reach out to me.
Awesome. So how many photos do your couples usually get from you?
This is a big question also. I don't have like a photo guarantee. I don't think a lot of photographers do. A good rule of thumb that I tell people is 100 photos an hour.
Oh, okay.
So if we're looking at like an 8-hour day, like 800 photos, which is a lot of photos to go through. I feel like any more would just be like almost too much. But yeah, so good rule of thumb.
Okay.
You might have a little bit more, a little bit less, like depending on how much I liked certain moments and how it turned out. So.
Okay, great. And how many hours of coverage do you usually include on wedding day?
It depending on how your timeline is set up, I would say about 8 hours is like a good like go-to number.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
So eight or more.
You go up from there? Okay,
yes.
Yeah, that was gonna be my
8 would be like the minimum, because you can't really capture the day from start to end. Wedding day is a long day. You know this.
Yeah, it's a long day. You want to get all of those moments in there.
Yeah,
for
100%.
Sure. Yeah. Do you usually have a second shooter that comes with you?
I do usually have.
And maybe in case people don't know, what is a second shooter?
Yeah, a second shooter. A lot of people confuse it with assistant. Second shooter is a full-fledged photographer. The ones that I have on my team also have their own professional photography businesses, so it's not just like my cousin or something like that. Although my cousin is a photographer, so that would work out okay. So it's a trained professional, and we will be the second shooters, or not the primary photographer, but the secondary photographer. And they'll come along. And there are pros and cons for having a second shooter, but you get more photos. You can have 2 people in 2 different places. It really adds to it. So I have packages that include second shooters and that don't.
Okay.
It's a bigger priority for some people. If someone was to ask, Kristen, should I have a second shooter or not? I would say yes.
Yeah.
Because, different angles, like the second shooter can sometimes capture like a candid moment while I'm taking like more formal pictures.
Yeah.
And that's always great. You'll love those photos.
Yeah, or you can be with the bride and the bridesmaids getting
Yeah.
ready, and the second shooter can be with the groomsmen while they're getting ready.
100%.
So you can cover both
Yeah.
places.
So it would be my recommendation, but whatever the couple wants, we can do.
Totally. All right. Second to last question.
Okay.
This is a big one. I get this as a planner too.
Okay.
Should we do a first look?
Oh yes, the big question these days. We did a video together about this, but just to hit the highlights is a first look is when you see each other before the wedding, and then you do all the pictures ahead of time. There are pros and cons, but my recommendation is yes.
Yeah.
In terms of the flow of the day, you see each other, you still have that special moment, and then you can get all the formal photos kind of taken care of so that you can get married, and then you can just party afterwards and not have to worry about like standing for a bazillion and 1 photos. It makes the day feel a lot more natural, I think, anyway. So.
Yeah, totally. No, that's good. Good advice for the first look. I know it's a tricky thing, but really when it comes down to it, it's up to the bride and groom.
It really is. If you want to not do a first look, totally fine. But, if someone wanted to know my thoughts, I like it. So.
All right, last question.
Okay.
So this is not quite related to the wedding day, but we just got engaged. We picked our photographer. What do I wear to engagement photos?
Yes, engagement fashion. I would recommend for ladies 2 things. A dress always looks pretty. Like, it doesn't even have to, you don't even have to try all that hard. Just put on a dress with some slight heels. You look like $1,000,000. But if that's not really your thing, if you're not a dress person, that's okay. I'd wear some like really nice pants and just like a flowy, pretty top. Nothing too patterned because we don't want, it doesn't want to be crazy.
Yeah.
And then for a guy, either, if you want to wear a suit, that looks pretty sharp too, but if that's not your style, khakis and like a button-down shirt always looks super nice. You want to try to be on the same color palette. It doesn't need to be like, I'm wearing blue and blue and blue and blue and it's just blue, although blue is a beautiful color, but if you want to have like some different, shades or like a couple of different colors, so try to stick in like a color palette. And my biggest advice is find 1 article of clothing that you love and just like base everything off. So like if it's a dress, like I love this dress, so what can he wear that matches? Or if it's a shirt, or you know what I mean? Like just kind of start basic and then build from it and accessorize because it always looks really good. And this is kind of like a side point. I just thought of this. A lot of brides will use their engagement session day as their hair and makeup trial day.
Yes, that's a really good tip.
So you want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, try out your hair and makeup artist, and then come get engagement photos, and then you're going to have like the glam on both days. So there's a good tip for you.
Absolutely. No, I love that tip. Great. Well, I think that's all the questions I have for you.
Cool.
Thanks so much for chatting today.
You're so welcome.
And if they have more questions for you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
They can email me, KristenBowenPhotography@gmail.com, or just, reach out on Instagram or Facebook. I'm on all of those platforms. So either way, you'll get a hold of me, I'm sure. So
Absolutely. All right, well, thanks again, Kristen.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.